You know, that slick, fur-collared icon who outwitted the whole system? The coolest hero of a generation? Here's the twist. The role that crowned him also caged him. Past the flashy coats and custom rides of Superfly, 1972, was a real story, messier, braver, and far more heartbreaking than anything on screen. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain. The artist behind the legend, the woman who found her voice, the late bloomer who became a Bond villain, the ex-con who turned into a mentor, and the friend whose real life echoed the movie's darkest warnings. Now, let's talk about the man everyone thought they knew. The world met Youngblood Priest, but few met Ron O'Neal. He wasn't a hustler. He was a disciplined stage actor with years of craft behind him. He grew up in Cleveland, where early family struggles taught him grit. A friend dragged him to a performance at the historic Karamu House, the oldest African-American theater company in the U.S., and boom, he'd found his calling. For years, he poured himself into classics A Raisin in the Sun, A Streetcar Named Desire, while painting houses by day to keep the lights on. He moved to New York, taught acting, and took whatever roles he could get, even when they stung. He lost out on one high-profile role because he was considered too light, and he bristled at another that leaned on stereotype in Sidney Poitier's The Organization. Still, he kept swinging. His real breakthrough? An off-Broadway powerhouse, No Place to Be Somebody. O'Neal's performance as a sharp, streetwise bar owner was electric, so strong he won an Obie Award. That's the night doors opened. Writer Philip Fenty, a friend, was crafting a new story and tailored a role for him. Youngblood Priest. If the film ever got made, the part was his. And then, Superfly exploded. Financed on a shoestring by Harlem backers, including a couple of dentists, no joke, and powered by a predominantly black and Puerto Rican crew, the Pride Mantle Disclive, film sprinted from tiny budget to box office phenomenon. O'Neal shot to international fame overnight, but the spotlight came with heat. Civil rights groups blasted the movie for glamorizing dealers and selling a destructive image. O'Neal pushed back. To him, this was a rare story where a black man beat a rigged system and walked away. People weren't used to seeing that ending. The criticism gnawed at him. Determined to redirect the message, O'Neal did something bold. He directed and starred in the sequel, Superfly, TNT. He moved Priest off the streets and into a broader global fight filmed in Rome. The intention was noble. The result wasn't. The sequel stripped out the danger and style that audiences came for. The box office froze, and a brutal Hollywood rule snapped shut. They wanted Ron O'Neal only as Priest, the untouchable hustler, not the hero on a higher mission. He later admitted that one glossy montage in the original, showing the drug trade like a magazine spread, had landed like an ad. His attempt to steer the message couldn't break the golden cage. For decades after, the shadow lingered. O'Neal kept working action flicks like A Force of One, TV staples like Hill Street Blues, Murder, She Wrote, Living Single, a recurring detective on The Equalizer, a return to Shakespeare on stage. He reunited with peers in Original Gangstas and closed his film run with On the Edge. But the leading man path he'd earned on stage? Hollywood rarely handed it back. In 2004, Ron O'Neal passed away after a battle with pancreatic cancer. He was 66. The role that made him myth also boxed him in. While the man who played Priest wrestled with that image, the woman by his side found a way to reinvent herself quietly and brilliantly. Meet Sheila Frazier, who played Georgia. On-screen, poised, warm, unwavering. Off-screen, a young woman who'd fought a severe stutter for much of her life. She chased acting anyway, arriving in New York at 17, temping as a secretary and hustling for auditions. Modeling came knocking, but it wasn't her lane. Then, encouragement from Richard Roundtree led her to the Negro Ensemble Company, and something magical happened. When she fully disappeared into a character, the stutter let her go. That discovery changed everything. Months later, she booked the lead female role in Superfly. She kept acting. 3. The Hard Way, California Suite, and TV turns on Dallas. The Love Boat, Cagney, and Lacey. But her master move was behind the camera. In the early 80 seconds, she joined Richard Pryor's Indigo Productions as a story editor, sharpened her instincts on what makes a script sing, produced for Essence's TV series, then took the reins of talent at BET for over a decade. Think about that. While many of her peers stayed in front of the lens, Sheila Frazier became a quiet kingmaker, shaping who got discovered, hired, and seen. She still popped up on screen, yes, even in later-era hits and TV dramas, but her legacy lives in the careers she helped launch. Now, the rest of the cast? Their off-screen stories were just as wild. Julius Harris Scatter, Priest's mentor, didn't even start acting until his 40s. Before that, he was a World War II medic, a licensed nurse, a jazz club bouncer. Then came the roles, and in 1973 he detonated into the mainstream as Tee-Hee, the metal-hooked villain in Live and Let Die. From Harlem Consigliere to James Bond, bad guy in a year? That's a pivot. He kept working steadily. King Kong, 1976, and a stack of TV classics including Good Times, The Jeffersons, and Murder, She Wrote. Charles McGregor, who played Fat Freddy, brought a rawness that felt uncomfortably real. There was a reason. He'd spent many years in and out of prison for serious crimes before landing the role. After a few more films, yes, that's him, in Blazing Saddles and 3 The Hard Way, he made the most unexpected turn. He crisscrossed the country, visiting schools, warning kids away from the path he'd walked. He even co-wrote a memoir about that transformation. From cell block to classroom, his second act was all redemption. And then there's Carl Lee, who played Eddie, the friend who loved the lifestyle too much to quit. In New York's underground art world, he was the epitome of cool, the son of actor-boxer Canada Lee, an Emmy-nominated TV performer, the star of the groundbreaking indie The Cool World, and a standout in The Connection. On film, he was the high-life loyalist, asking why anyone would ever leave the game. Off-camera, he was battling heroin addiction. A contaminated needle led to AIDS, and in 1986 he died of an overdose. The movie let Priest walk away clean. Reality didn't offer Carl Lee the same exit. If there's a lesson here, it's this. The costumes and cars were props, but the people were painfully real. Fame can be a velvet cage. Reinvention can happen off stage. Redemption may arrive in a classroom. And sometimes, the saddest endings are the ones that look most like the movies. If this deep dive gave you a new angle on an old classic, drop a like, share it with someone who loves film history, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next untold story. What movie should we decode next? Your pick might be the next legend we unmask.